So in less than an hour now, we'll wrap up San Diego's reopening day. It took a lot of work by a lot of people to get here, and there's been plenty of division and debate along the way. One person you've seen a lot of is San Diego County Supervisor Nathan Fletcher. We spent some time talking about when he realized just what this county was up against. Was there ever a time when you worried or thought maybe we wouldn't get to this day?
So in the early days, we didn't, there was so much we didn't know. And those early projections were so stark about the number of ICU beds we would need and the number of ventilators that we would need. And so that time was really difficult. But we had everyone kind of unified, and we came together and we did really well. I think the harder period came right after that, which was the realization that because of how transmissible COVID was and because of the impact it would have on the health system, that we were going to be in this until we got a vaccine. And it was that moment where I was like, we're going to be doing this for more than a year. It's going to take a year at minimum to get a vaccine, probably 6 months to administer it. And that was a moment where I thought, God, I don't know if we can we do this that long?
Some days you must have just said, I don't want to get out of bed. I don't want to deal with this. Not just the huge job that you've had, but also you have kids. They've had to do the virtual learning. You have been affected, I would assume, on a personal level like all of us.
Yeah. Well, and and there were some dark moments. I mean, there were some really, where you're just grinding through and some moments of real frustration. Early January, when we're having 4,000 cases a day. 4,000 cases a day. And we're down to a handful of ICU beds left. And to have protests about, we need to have sports back or this back at the point of maximum peril, some of those were difficult and they were hard. And so there were days where you're just like, man, what is going on in the world today?
Can you talk a little bit about how politics played such a huge role in what has happened? And then also, looking forward, are we going to be able to move past that, come together?
Well, I mean, it's hard. I mean, there's never a good time to have a global pandemic, ever. I mean, there's no good time. But this had to be the worst time. And I remember early in the pandemic, we had a press conference at the county building. And I remember it because we were dealing with COVID, but it was before we were spaced out, before we were wearing masks. And there we were all standing together. From the most progressive elected officials in San Diego County to the most conservative ones, and we were speaking with one voice. We're going to come together as a community. We're going to protect each other. We're going to stay unified. We're going to do this. And we left there, and it was wonderful. And I walked in my office, and I told my staff, I said, that won't hold. I said, I give it 2 weeks, maybe 3.
How long did it hold?
About 2 weeks. So much of the opposition and so much of what happened just fell into those. Everyone just reverted to their tribes. And it made it really, really difficult. Our heart will always hurt. My heart will always hurt for those lives we lost. And it'll hurt for those folks who were really economically impacted, and those families who really had to struggle and go through it. But we did the best we could with what we had. And this is the time that I think we not just move forward, but my hope is we kind of move forward together. And we recognize and appreciate everything we've been through. But we really have our eyes looking ahead to the recovery and the rebuild and getting our economy back and really just looking ahead to a great summer.
So Supervisor Fletcher estimates that he's held about 150 pandemic press conferences. And while those regularly scheduled briefings came to an end today, county leaders still have ahead of them a summer filled with the continued vaccine rollout and efforts to get the economy going now that most of those restrictions are lifted.